Well, we didn't kind of have a day off because we came in around the coaches have the morning off, as do the players, to be able to kind of wind up going to church or whatever they want to do. And so the staff comes in around 1, as the players do, and we do have regular practice that day, and the staff stays till about 10:30 that night. So you could call that a day off, but it's not exactly a day off. And in the morning, I think with families going to church, not everybody had much of an opportunity to kind of watch them. I watched a quarter, but then we get going. So we really weren't able to take advantage of that. In fact, it turned out to be an inconvenience because they had problems with their film, and we had our video guys here till like 4 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning, making sure that the film was loaded right and handled the way it needed to be handled. So we didn't get a chance to look at their film until Monday. So that was a little bit of an issue, a little bit of a problem, but not the end of the world. We certainly had an opportunity to get that done. On Monday, our players are off, but our coaches come in at 8 a.m. They work till 10. So that's a little bit more of a full day for you, Rich. So Mark is a little bit more of a full day. And just a slip of the tongue. So that it on that? Sunday?
You're not going to talk any more about it?
Well, yeah, you want me to talk about them? Yeah, I'm just answering your question. You told me I was off on Sunday. I didn't realize that. I think as far as, Mike already alluded to this. When you look at their defense, they were the #1 rushing defense in the country a year ago. They certainly did a good job the other day. They were #1 pass defense in the country in 2012. So they're certainly a defense to be reckoned with. Our offense is going to have to, we're going to have to make good decisions with regards to our checks. We're going to have to make sure we're going to the right side. We're throwing when we're supposed to throw, running when we're supposed to run. We need to be a little bit more effective, I think, in terms of our perimeter game. From an offensive perspective, we got to do a little better job of holding on to the ball when the ball comes our way. Got to do a little better job of that. And frankly, I think our offense expects this. When we get to the 35-yard line or so, I know we have a high percentage with regards to red zone efficiency, but some of those 3 points have to become 7 points. And when we get to the 35-yard line, we've got to turn those into points. So I think we can be a little bit more consistent on offense, but we're playing a very good defensive team. I think from a defensive perspective, I think their running back, number 28, I think he's the real deal. He had a lot of accolades a year ago, deservedly so. He's a preseason pick to be an All-American, deservedly so. He averaged 16 yards a carry the other day. He's a very good back. They can throw to him. He can run the ball. He's a good back. Now, what makes him more dangerous is that their quarterback, who, by the way, happens to be a local kid, their quarterback also has the ability to run. So when he's reading his zone or he's reading something, and if we're overplaying 28, then he's going to keep the ball, and he's very, very effective as a runner. He can also throw the ball. Now, he's probably a little better runner, but they're being able to run their quarterback or their tailback and being able to read that is very, very effective for them. So our defense, it's going to be a real test for us. We're going to have to make sure we are disciplined with regards to our reads, and we're going to make sure we're tackling well. We can't get sloppy. If we get sloppy, they're going to hurt us on a play action. With regards to special teams, I think they're sound across the board. They had a punt return the other day for a touchdown that was called back. They had a kickoff return the other day. I think that held up. So they have kids that can break one on you, at any point in time throughout the span of the game. So we've got to be very disciplined in terms of where we kick the ball and make sure we're disciplined with regards to our lanes, and we got to make sure we're disciplined in the terms that we're in terms of the stuff that we're trying to do from a special teams perspective too. So I wouldn't underestimate one more factor, and that is no matter how you cut it, they had an incredible win the other day. They're up significantly at halftime, and that was on national TV. So that's going to jack them up. They're going to feel very, very good about that. We beat them a couple years ago. In fact, their quarterback started against us in that game, I believe. I think he did. And I think it's going to be a good football game.
Joe, what did you learn from your team after Saturday that you didn't necessarily know going into Saturday?
I don't know if we learned anything, Brandon, that was new to us. I think we become more aware of the things that we weren't as sharp on, that we need to do a better job on. So offensively, for example, by the way, notice I'm handling this on the fly. We went from Citadel to A&T. Now we're back to Citadel, and I didn't even blink on this. I didn't even hesitate. Call it a segue. I think from an offensive perspective, I think, again, we got to do a better job of catching the ball. We got to be a little bit more consistent in terms of our perimeter game. I think we did a good job. Alex did a good job checking in and out of plays. And we got to do a better job of scoring, period, both touchdowns or field goals when we get inside the 35, touchdowns when we get inside the 20. From a defensive perspective, I thought that their offensive line did a better job of controlling the line of scrimmage than what our defensive line did. That's an issue. We were playing too high. Well, we got to correct that. We weren't as aggressive as we need to be on the perimeter. So a lot of the yards that they were able to get against us on the ground were on the perimeter. We've got to be able to make sure we can take that away. Certainly A&T is going to see that. They're going to come after us there. And the third part of it, with regards to special teams, our lanes, especially on the backside, weren't as good as they should have been in terms of our kickoffs, and they hurt us with that. Alex was a little inconsistent, but I think he'll be fine going forward. And there was too much penetration on our field goal protection. So they're things that they weren't new for us, but they're things that we need to improve upon from the game the other day.
How different is this team from the team that you saw in 2012? And I bring it up because in 4 meetings since 2008, you guys have had at least a double-digit spread on them every time, including 2012 when you say they had #1 pass defense. But I even admit it almost looked like a gimme game, and then I saw they picked up a vote in the polls after the big win this past week. And how different is this team from the A&T that we've seen before?
Well, there's only one A&T that I've seen before. That was my opening day. So now, remember, on opening day 2 years ago, we were still a new team. We're still learning our way. We're still feeling our way. I thought we became much better as the season wound up, as the season went on. That was the year they were number one ranked with regards to pass defense. That was opening day, so they were getting the kinks out as well. The quarterback was a young kid. That was his first start. He wasn't particularly experienced, and I think they became better as the season went on. You know what happened prior to me? I know we beat them, but I'm not even looking at that.
Which is a pretty good effort.
Say that again.
You guys put 29 points up on them, which is a good effort against the #1 pass defense. So,
But I'm not disagreeing, Mike. I'm just saying that was their first game, and I think they were feeling the way. It was our first game. We were feeling the way. So, frankly, I don't put much on that at all. They also have a different, for example, they have the same defensive coordinator, but they have a different offensive coordinator. So we're seeing a little bit more of a different emphasis, perhaps, than what we had seen a couple of years ago. I looked at the film from a couple of years ago, but again, with different coordinator on one side of the ball. And our very first game out, their first game out that year, I don't put a whole lot of credence in it. I put more credence on what they just did against Alabama and A&M, and I put more credence on the last 3 or 4 games last year than what happened 2 years ago. 2 years ago, to me, is a little bit irrelevant. And again, as we know, the fact that we beat them 2 years ago, there's no guarantee that's going to happen going forward. That's irrelevant, too.
Based on the effective rush defense that they have, how does that change your game plan, knowing that you have a pretty versatile passing attack? Do you have more on that?
Yeah, I think we're going to stay pretty disciplined in terms of our approach. So the way Dave Patton and the offensive staff have always looked at this and what we're in sync in philosophically, we go into each game with the idea that we want to be balanced, both running and passing. But then depending on what you give us, we will emphasize more one phase of the game than another. So if you're giving us things in the air, we're going to just take more advantage of that. If you're giving us things on the ground, we're going to take advantage of that. We know they're a good defense. We know that. We understand that. But if they cheat one way, they're going to have to play us reasonably balanced, because if they cheat one way to take one thing away, we're going to come after them with something else. So they got to be prepared for our offense as well. But we expect that to be a test.
And the running back, he's the short guy. What's his style? What stands out to you about the way
I think he reminds me a little bit of D'Angelo. I think they probably have similar builds, I think. I think D'Angelo's better looking. But I think they have similar builds. So this is a powerful, compact, great balance, very quick, good speed, strong kid. He's a very good back. Come on, give me something tough.
Would you call them a virtually one-dimensional team? I mean, they really don't throw it.
The answer is no, I wouldn't. And the reason why I wouldn't is because while they run the ball, they can do a lot of different things with it. So even though you're looking at one phase of the game, if you could do multiple things out of that phase, they're not one-dimensional. So if the only thing they could do, for example, is line up in an eye kind of power football straight ahead, that's one-dimensional. But they can go inside, they can go outside with the same kid. They can fake inside and go outside with the quarterback. So the quarterback and the running back give them dual dimensions, both inside and outside, with regards to the running game. Now, off that, while the quarterback's not an experienced drop-back passer, what he's pretty effective with is his play action. So they have this wonderful running game that you've got to respect, and now you get lulled to sleep a little bit. Now it's a play-action pass, and if you're not being disciplined to make sure you're paying attention to your reads, you can get very, very much burned there. So for those reasons, I'd suggest they're not one-dimensional. We've got to look at them as reasonably balanced for those reasons.
Now that that's behind you, and you haven't had a lot of time probably to go back to what you were doing before, how do you transition back to a more conventional defense after that?
So if you think about the Citadel preparation and think about the triple option preparation, we began that the first day of spring. But we spent 15 minutes on it each day. So let's assume we normally have a 2-hour practice. So we got an extra day or two in the practice before we played the Citadel. So we had... Usually you really have, maybe you count Sunday, maybe you don't, but you have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to really get ready for a team. Okay, so because we didn't have a game the first week of school, we used that Thursday and Friday to get a couple extra days in there. Well, actually, we had Friday and Saturday. So we really had 5 days where it was just full-time preparation for Citadel. But if you count the 15 days of spring practice and the 20-something, 29 practices that we had before Citadel, that's 22, 23 practices, where 3/4 of the practice, we're working on other stuff. So we have been working against this type of stuff, just not over the span of the previous 6 or 7 practices. So when we practiced Sunday night, the whole objective Sunday night was to think about A&T. It was when we looked at film, we talked about what are the issues with Citadel that we got to improve upon, but the practice was focused on A&T. This is what we're going to do this week.
Obviously, that's got to concern you a little bit when you look at his numbers and your concerns when it comes to covering kicks.
I don't have great concerns in terms of covering kicks. Just on 2 of the kickoffs the other day, we were not as effective and not as disciplined as we needed to be on the backside. They took advantage of that. So we have to correct that. I'd like to believe we will do that. We'll correct that. And they have a kid that can break one. They actually have a couple of kids that can actually break one. So we're aware of that. We're aware of that kid. But that's part of what we've got to do. And we've got to be able to face against a guy that can break one on you as far as a kickoff return goes. And the key for us is moving the ball around when we're kicking off and staying disciplined with regards to our lane, and a couple of change-ups with regards to, let's say, crossing lanes as guys are going downfield. So that's just part of what we've got to be able to do, Brandon, to make sure we're effective. So that's what we're doing. That's kind of like more standard operating procedure, and focus on the things that we weren't really strong at that we got to do better, rather than, it's a big deal. It's a big deal if we don't do it right, but we've got to do it right.
Anything else for Coach?
Nothing about the markets, nothing about the economy.
Well, let's talk about your ranking.
Okay, well, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. I think the rankings at the very beginning of the season and the preseason picks, all those things are based on what you did the year before. So, we had a lot of kudos because we did a good job a year before. Our guys got a lot of kudos because they did a good job the year before. So I think that kind of carries over into the next season in terms of preseason picks, et cetera. After the first game of the season, so we began picked relatively high because of what we did a year ago. We won our first game, so we're still relatively high. I'm not worried about that too much, and frankly, we don't talk about that really as a team. I know our guys are all aware of where we are, but we don't talk about it much as a team at all. And we'll start paying attention to that literally at the end of the season.
Yeah, but it beats the alternative. These people talk about the top 5.
But we're delighted with that. So we're delighted people are talking about us. But it doesn't affect us. It doesn't affect what we do. We don't approach things differently. We don't make a big deal where we're in the top 5. It's got no impact. Zero. Zero impact. I know we're in the top 5. Our guys know we're in the top 5. I never said anything, not one word to our guys. Not one of our guys said one word to me. I didn't say anything to our coaches about it. They didn't say anything to me. And maybe one of the coaches says something in their position groups, but Alex, do you guys talk about being in the top 5? No. Okay, so. But we don't. We don't. I mean, I understand it sounds good, but this time of year it doesn't really matter much. I would assume the top 25 teams will change, probably 10 of them will change over the span of the season, I'd guess. I'm not paying attention to that either.
Everybody healthy?
Yeah, everybody's healthy. Amir's probably going to be held out of game. He's got a little problem with his cartilage. We might need to scope that. We'll find out how serious that is. But right now, we don't think it's that serious. We think he should be okay in a couple weeks. That's it.
Coach, can we talk a little bit about scheduling, future scheduling? I know you said that you got Furman on here and Elon and of course South Carolina State. Is there any chance that you guys would add Wofford to your list coming up? Maybe do something like a long-standing just play South Carolina teams in your non-conference schedule to get some fan base?
I think, I think Brandon, in terms of we've changed the schedule considerably. I think what we're trying to do is play reasonably local teams, like within 300 miles or so. We're trying to do that. We make a real effort to do that. So we've talked to all those respective teams. We've done all that. But schedules kind of get set a little bit ahead of time. And you've got to be diligent in terms of staying on top of that. I think we will be going forward. And we'll look at all those. We'll look at that.
On scheduling, I know we talked before about not wanting to play the Clemsons and the Carolinas anymore, the Giants, if you will, of the FBS. But what about maybe the second tier of the FBS looking forward? Like I look at Bethune-Cookman beating an FIU and some of these other things that make you better as a team. So when you go face North Dakota State down the road or some other team like that, instead of the schedule right now seems a little less on the strength schedule.
We have a top 20 schedule. So that's a pretty good schedule. So we don't need to make it tougher than what it is, number one. So I feel pretty good. We play a very competitive schedule. The schedules all get ranked. We play a nationally competitive schedule. Number one. Number two, I'm still not sure, Mike, what the advantage is to playing a mid-major. They still have 33% more scholarships than you do. You usually see that, frankly, in special teams. And you get a guy hurt in a special team. I've got the exact same issues. I've got the same issues. They don't pay. Number one, they don't pay you enough. They don't pay you enough, period. And number two, you risk getting your guys injured because you're playing against a guy that has a third more scholarships than you do. So I don't understand the value of that. To me, that's not good value to me.
Right, even I think you could win Toledo. Last year's team could have won Toledo.
I think there are 125 or so FBS schools. I think we'd have a shot against 75 of them. But that doesn't mean it's a good game for us. Again, we go to a playoff. We got to be one of the teams that wins our league. We got to be one of the teams that gets to a playoff. We got to be one of the teams then that has to win against the best teams in the country once you get to the playoff. Now, it's a little different now that the BCS has gone to the 4-team. It's 4 teams. I mean, that's one more game than what they had. For us to go all the way, if we get picked in, we're playing games in the first round, we got to play 5 games in the national playoffs against the toughest teams in the country. And depending on the year, it means we're playing 17 games. I don't know what the benefit is to playing an FIU or playing a mid-major. It doesn't mean we can't beat them. I don't know what the value is. I don't know what the benefit is. And I'd rather go back to, I'd rather play teams that, are FCS schools that are within, a couple hundred, 200-300 miles of the campus.
I just take it back because I remember you called North Dakota State almost like a good FBS. And if one day Coastal's to vie for that title, obviously got to be good enough to beat a team like the North Dakota State or an Eastern Washington.
Well, if you vie for the title, you'll be one of the teams that'll be competing for the title at the end of the day. And if you get a little luck that day and you're doing pretty well that particular day, you got a good chance of being able to win that. But that's That's against the people that are in our. That would be a big deal for us to be able to do that. And, you know, we want to be able to achieve that one of these days. But our guys understand we don't achieve that by getting ready for that game. What we're doing is there's a certain thing, like we talk to our guys about what we need to accomplish from January to the middle of March. We talk about what we have to accomplish in spring ball. Then from middle of April to the end of the school year, what do we have to accomplish? What do we have to accomplish in the summertime? Then what do we have to accomplish the first 2-3 weeks of practice? Then what do we have to accomplish as we get in season? That's literally the way we approach that. So it's a process. The reason why a team is good in November or December is because, one, they've stayed healthy. Big priority. One, they've stayed healthy. And two, they compound the things that they've been doing well. You have a bad spring, our job's to reach our potential. I think people think of it backwards. I know we want to win. I know but the way you increase the probability you're going to win is to maximize your own potential. So if you're going to maximize your own potential, you never do that. If you have a bad spring, even if you catch up, even though you would have been better that season if you had had a good spring. So that's kind of the way that's the way we approach that. I mean, that's literally the way we approach it. So.
Coach, looking at the schedule and just talking a little bit more on that, and you had alluded to that you're trying to get teams that are 350 miles from here, like a Wofford or something like that. Would it be more beneficial to have you say you were playing Wofford this week, to no disrespect to North Carolina A&T, but I mean, it's North Carolina A&T. You think you'd be better off playing a Wofford instead of them later on down the schedule, instead of playing a team like, I mean, I know they're not a SWAC team, but it's basically.
I think I'm going to repeat, North Carolina A&T, we have a good relationship with them. We played them in the past. It'd be interesting to see how many people be at the game there. They're the #1 defense in the country for passing 2 years ago, the #1 defense in the country against the rush a year ago. You know, we got to be able to play North Carolina A&T. And you don't know who's going to be good at one particular point in time. So the answers, who's going to make sense down the road, is you don't know what the answer is going to be to that. But teams that I think we can have a real rivalry with over time, we're happy to play them. So we're not avoiding a game with it. By the way, we spent hours in trying to get our schedule ready. And, you know, the fact that Wofford's not on it is just because we probably weren't able to schedule them, or they us. But I wouldn't just automatically assume I would not drop A&T just to play Wofford.
Do you think you'd have a better fan excitement around a game like that than A&T? That you may have a couple hundred fans that come up to Greensboro to watch that game?
But I'm not worried about that. In other words, we're going to try to, I think you're being too specific, Brandon, and I understand why you are. I understand that. But you're talking about somebody that's 3.5 hours away. Okay, I think there's no reason why we can't have good rivalry amongst the teams that are within a reasonable bus ride of our campus and vice versa. There are 11 teams on the schedule. So if there's an opportunity for us to play anybody, whomever that might be, that we think makes sense, we will seriously consider that.
I don't know if you did a map quest, wouldn't they be about the same distance? Spartanburg and Greensboro? They're both long hauls.
The 3.5 hours.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, okay, so we got to tighten it up then.
They're close enough. They're, you know, 6 and 1/2. One last thing that I have is Alex Ross. Where does he rank in terms of? Oh, he's still here. I don't care FBS, FCS, all of college football. Where do you think he sits?
No, I think there are certainly guys in the country that have a stronger arm than Alex. I think there are certainly guys in the country that have that are better runners than Alex. But there are not many guys in the country that are better leaders and make better decisions and have overall the qualities that a really great quarterback has. So his ability to be able, and I think he'll get better as the season goes on in terms of his running ability. He actually has real speed. You don't see that necessarily when he's running because he's dancing a little bit. He danced a little bit, but when he takes off, he's got speed. And when he plants and goes, he can be very, very effective as a runner. He has the ability to be able to read, and he understands what he's doing in terms of throwing the ball. So while somebody else might have a stronger arm, he's got a pretty accurate arm, and he makes good decisions with that. So, I mean, I think when you think about all the different qualities that a quarterback is supposed to have, or you'd like a quarterback to have, the ability to throw, the ability to run, the ability to be able to make decisions and understand what the defense is doing to you, and the ability to be able to check in and check out of trouble, being able to, you constantly then increase the probability that you're going to be more successful. And then the leadership you'd expect out of your quarterback, I think Alex is as good as there is in the country.
You think you have a shot to play in the league?
Yes. Only if they like guys that know how to check in and out of trouble, know how to read defenses, can get the ball there well. Only if they care about that.